Oh my word. It's Monday morning and it's Nutty Monday morning. I'm sorry it took me so long. It took me a while to find underwear of all dumb things. I know it sounds silly, but I've got like 4 or 5 loads of laundry to fold and I haven't put anything away. So I was running around like a maniac. Beside the point. My name is Suzanne Tickemeyer. I wrote for Pathos for nearly 10 years, a column called No Longer Quivering, where I talked about quiverful, like the Duggars. Last night somebody sent me something that I'd heard. I think I'd seen it years ago too, but it's been so long since I visited it. When I started looking through the thing, I was really shocked. Hey, Aaron. Um, I knew that the Maxwells had something like this. I'd seen that Stacy and James McDonald had had a list like this. Hey, Marie. But Maria, I had no clue. Well, I had heard, and I may have seen in the past, but I'd forgotten what the Duggars pre-courtship contract looked like. Oh my goodness. I've been on a Quiverful so long now that, and away from NLQ, that I get really shocked sometimes when I see some of this stuff. It's like I'm seeing it anew, whereas when I was seeing it for the first time, I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty normal. Everybody does that. And now I'm kind of like, what? WTF? WTF? And last night, even though I know I'd seen this before, I was busy going WTF looking at the thing. I was up till real late. Sorry, I'm in desperate need of caffeine this morning, more than my coffee. So I'm having my Coca-Cola Sabor Ligero. That's Diet Coke for you people that aren't living in Central America. That's my Diet Coke. So long story short, this is a questionnaire of 423 questions. Most of them are repeats that are crazy. I'm just going to come out and say, if anybody is asking you these kinds of questions and saying you cannot date my daughter, you cannot have anything to do with my son unless you answer all these and you answer them right, I would have to say, oh hell no, this is one of those. It's just super crazy, this stuff they're coming up with. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to read you some of them. I may not read the whole thing because there's a whole lot of repetition. They ask the same question like 20 or 30 times. They just keep rewording the question. It's like, didn't you already ask that question? The first section has to do with going to see counselors. Well, let's talk about what they even consider a counselor. They don't believe in psychiatric help. They don't believe in psychology or psychologists. They only believe in seeing a biblical counselor actually give pretty good advice. I always tell people to shop around when they're looking for a counselor or they're looking for any kind of mental health help, because not everybody is going to be the perfect fit for you. Somebody that works for you works for somebody else, may not work for you. And that's really important. I learned that one the hard way a couple of times. So the first section has to do with this counseling. And it's written as if the girl is asking the guy who's interested in her to answer these questions. Question number 1. Do you ever seek advice from others? Okay, pretty simple, but not sure that belongs on a dating questionnaire. How often do you seek counsel? Who do you seek counsel from? What type of things do you ask counsel about? Okay, all of this stuff is definitely in the none of your freaking business category. It's not a bad idea to ask others when you're struggling with things, and not even psychologist type others. It might just be somebody at your church, a close friend, whatever. But they make it seem pretty horrific. But if you think about how isolated they are and how they isolate others in their group, it makes perfect sense. Would you be humble enough to go into counseling if I felt we needed to? Okay, fair question. But here we have a bunch of repeats of it. Would you go to counseling even if you don't feel the need to go, but I do? Will you go to counseling the first time you were asked? Are you humble about seeking counsel, or do you already have all the answers? Are you willing for us to share our problems with a counselor? Would you include your wife as a counselor? Would you seek my opinion or my advice before making decisions, especially big ones? What are the primary events or situations in your life that have defined who you are today? It's the most most formulating experiences and periods of your life. Okay, so that's a lot to cover just in a few little questions. They want to know, she asked like 50 ways. If we go to a counselor, will you listen to me? That's an important thing, but ask it once. Don't ask it all these weird different ways. And I think asking somebody to describe some hard time they've been through that a counselor helped them with is maybe too much at the very beginning. That's something you ask later on. What have been the hardest things that you ever had to work through? The hardest things you've ever done? Who have been the main discipliners in your life and the people who have impacted and colored your life the most? As a child, as whenever. Who were your role models and heroes, and what are the reasons? You are the result of the influence of other people? And that's asked as a question. Which women, men do you admire the most and want to be like? Why? And which ways would you like to be like them? I don't even know what to say about half of that. B, that sounds like very wise counseling. I'm not sure that the stuff they're talking about here is even any remotely like that. I'm going to push through and get through this section, I hope. What qualities and personality traits do you see in other women, men that you desire to have yourself? What personality traits and or strengths do you see in women, men you know that you would desire for your husband or wife to possess? What did you grow up reading, watching? What books have had the greatest impact in defining who you are? Who you are. Books, fiction, history, theology, anything. Which authors have you always most enjoyed and or admired? What films have influenced? The question right afterwards makes me laugh. Do you read? Do you read? They just spent a whole section asking you about the books you've read, especially, not so much the films you've watched. And then the next question is, do you read? Maybe they should have put that one higher, and what books have influenced you below that. You know what they're looking for here. They're looking to see if somebody says, the Bible, the Bible, the Bible, or else acceptable historians like David Barton or David Jeremiah. They're looking for the signifiers of the right kind of fundamentalism. Okay, what do you read? Okay, that's the last question in that whole section. What do you read? That is supposedly all about counseling. I guess if you told them you read the Anarchist Cookbook, they might actually have a problem with that and say, nope, you're not dating my daughter. You're not dating a Duggar daughter. Like I said, this is supposedly from the Duggars. I see no indicators anywhere on it that it is from the Duggars, but I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that they had something very similar to this that they forced all of the guys wanting courtship to go through. Okay, your spiritual life. What are things you see as godly blessings. You desire and cherish these things? Wait a minute. So they're asking what you see as blessings and do you desire them? Well, if you see something as a blessing, you're going to pretty much automatically desire that, I would think. Would you be willing to die for Christ? If you are not dying daily, how can you be so sure that you would then? Ooh, we've got the first shade thrown. Dying daily. Hey, Kitty, you're way more pleasant than any kind of crazy courtship, anything. It's pork. A stray that has decided that she lives with me and she's my cat. She's simple with anyone else in the household. Okay, so we're going back to some more shade. What breaks your heart? What delights your innermost heart? Okay, that's one question. Are you a spiritual person? What are you expecting of your spouse religiously? What ministries do you serve in? What can you offer your spouse spiritually, spiritually? Who are your discipliners? So they're expecting everybody to be under the kind of authority so that somebody else can say, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong. Yeah, that's pork. Which I don't even believe in. Even when I was living in Quiverful, I didn't necessarily believe you needed a discipliner. What's wrong with hearing from God and receiving correction that way? I mean, I've known people to do that. Usually when you've done something wrong, eventually your own conscience will poke you. I'm one of those people where not only does my conscience poke me, it pokes me a lot until I do something. That's how I've learned to apologize so quickly, because I don't want to hear from that bitch. I'm very serious about that. I don't want to hear from that conscience. What do you believe about salvation? When did you start to obey the word because it was the word? When did you really start to seek the Lord? Oh, wow. That is a whole bunch of backhanded insults. When did the fruit of the Spirit start appearing in your life? What is besetting sin and what are your besetting sins? Okay, now they just want info for future torturing. Oh, Lordy. What do you believe about sin? What do you believe about Romans 6 and 77? Okay, I'm going to have to stop now and go look up Romans 6 and Romans 77 because I no longer daily read my Bibles, so I don't have every single. Romans 6, dead to sin, alive in Christ, of course. I thought maybe that's what it was, but I wasn't going to say it because it's been some years since I read my Bible every single day. Romans, where are we? Why is this pulling up French edition and trying to give me Psalm 77? Okay, that must be a typo because I am not coming up with a Romans 77. I'm coming up with Romans 7, verses 7 through 14. Let me go back and see what that says, since apparently that may be what they're talking about, because Psalm 77 comes up a whole lot. Romans 7:7 indicates the law is essential for identifying sin. I figured. Sin. My old pastor used to talk a lot about sin. One time he spent like 9 months just giving sermons on sin. My best friend and I would look at each other like, sin again. We went to a different church yesterday, and the sermon was all about how to pick out a false Christian. And I got to tell you, I was very turned off because it was this very negative message all about judging others. It was like, how do you know what somebody else's heart thing driving them is? You don't. You can't know that. You just cannot know that. Who knows what someone else's motivation is? And I'm just not comfortable going there with it. So I was kind of like, okay, not sure I'm coming back. By the time you reach adulthood, you should have enough self-discipline to be able to see what your behavior is wrong. Reasonable adults don't need discipliners. You are exactly right. They sure don't. And if you're raised Catholic or Jewish, you're going to have enough self-discipliners who are going to say, what did you do? You screwed up. Go back. Do that. Apologize. Do this. Hey, Noelle. Oh, and hey, Fat Chick, I didn't see you coming in here. I'm so interested in reading about this. Where am I? Okay. What do you think about your family? Are you good friends? How is sibling blank doing? What does theology mean? Is it just a list of doctrines? How do you get doctrine? How do you determine a right doctrine? What is your attitude towards historically held positions? How big is your vision for your disciple-making influence? Translation, witnessing, or as Stephen Anderson likes to say, soul winning. What are your main messages when you do that? I guess that's what they're saying when you go out doing that. Are you pursuing and involving yourself in fruitful projects that advance, build the kingdom? Are you interested in or focused on continual spiritual growth in yourself, your wife, and your family? Have the right fundy theology and go out and witness to the world. Which, I don't know about you guys, but I have never liked people that do the door-to-door witnessing. I have experienced that from practically every religion, maybe not the Buddhist. I don't think the Buddhists or the Catholics go door to door, but a lot of the other ones do, and that can be eye-opening. Oh, and the Jewish people don't do that either. In fact, if you try to join, they'll run and hide. They'll make you pursue to join. That's my understanding of some of my friends who've become Jewish. It is not something to be undertaken lightly. And quite frankly, I think if you're going to join a religion, it probably shouldn't be something undertaken lightly. It should be something that you give serious thought and intentionality to. Okay, this is the hardest thing you will ever see me guzzle, my Diet Cokes, on this channel, because all the drugs I take, oh my. Okay, what is your vision for the church? And I think they mean here the church as in the church universal worldwide. I don't think they problems. Evan say all men in worship. And here's a hint what they're looking for there. They are looking for hymns only. There are a lot of them that believe hymns only. Oh, am I buffering?